Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. You might as well just call me What If Golden was the Shield Hero at this point. All I do is Shield Hero What Ifs. I've been really enjoying Shield Hero What Ifs, and it seems like all of y'all have been enjoying it more or less. Deku What Ifs are not gone. My Hero Academia stuff is not gone. Demon Slayer stuff is definitely not gone. I just did a Demon Slayer thing not too long ago. I've actually am trying to brainstorm some ideas for Demon Slayer as well. But don't worry, those are not gone, and I'm gonna be adding more and more as we go. I'm really enjoying Shield Hero at the moment. Excuse me. And yeah, I want to give a quick little spoiler warning. It's nothing too big, or at least I currently think it's nothing too big because I'm still in the process of writing this. But one of the characters on the screen right now you can see is a spoiler for the light novel. Just keep that in mind. If you don't really care, don't really matter, frankly. But I will talk about it in literally the very first snippet of the story. But yeah, that's about it. And as always, if you enjoy, make sure to leave a like, sub, and comment down below any suggestions you want for future what ifs. And well, yeah, or maybe even any anime what ifs you want to see. I mean, I've been staying away from Naruto, but you might get Naruto eventually. I don't know yet. We'll see. But with that all said, I'm not going to waste any more of your time. And let's get right into what if Naofumi was the legendary gun hero. Let's get it. In a magical world, a world where everybody was separated into countries, where everybody relied on these heroes to save them. The 4 cardinal heroes were asked and brought to this world to save all of them from what they know as the waves of catastrophe. But during one of these waves, a young child by the name of Raphtalia watched as her parents died in front of her. Pushed off the mountain into water, she prayed for the safety of her parents, but she knew when she was falling, she saw the monster rip them to shreds. Tears filled her eyes, and she didn't know what to do with herself. But she remembered to what her parents once told her, to always keep a smile even in the darkest of times. Raphtalia swam back to shore after the wave was finished and saw that her entire village was in shambles. And in all the hope she could possibly bring, she begins saying and telling the entire village that they'll rebuild and that they'll do it with a smile and that this is for all the people that died during the wave. Everybody was on her side about this, glad. In another universe, Raphtalia had someone, a friend, family in fact, that she knew. But that someone didn't even come. That someone didn't arrive on time before something catastrophic happened to Raphtalia and her life. But this time, that person arrived a little bit sooner. A beautiful figure and black hair to more or less resolve it. She approached the village that was in ruins. She searched for Raphtalia, eventually finding her, promising that she will never leave and that they'll make sure to secure this place once again and make sure that they can rebuild. But that promise was quickly stricken away. That promise was ended in an instant when Raphtalia and everybody there, including the woman, were taken away and brought into slavery. Now, outside of this universe, outside of this world, there was a hero that didn't know he was bound to this world, soon to be transported in the near future. Gunshots begin to ring off, one after another, and after another. The bullet fire was so fast, so loud, that Naofumi would not be able to hear the screams of the people he needed to take out. Naofumi in this universe is different, an assassin of some sorts, a secret agent more specifically, one that was impeccable with his firearms, one that wouldn't miss from a mile away. Naofumi Iwatani, part of the secret ops in Japan. Naofumi was just practicing, and he can hear these screams of these people and he hears them over and over ringing in his head. It's as if it's trauma, PTSD, and he's shocked out of it. Naofumi, good job. Looks good again, kid. Getting better and better, I see. Oh, yeah, I guess so. Thank you. Yeah, of course. You feeling okay? I'm a little tired, I guess. I just need some sleep. Okay, yeah. Go ahead, kid. You got the day off anyways. Thank you. Naofumi leaves, heading back to the hotel that is assigned to him, and he lays down, staring at the ceiling. He sees a written code above him, and just keeps reading it over and over again. It says that if you make a mess, that you could be charged in this hotel, but obviously he doesn't intend to do that at all. Why is he this lost in his own thoughts that he keeps reading this note over and over again until he hears a rumble outside his door? But that rumble does not knock. That rumble begins to pound on the door over and over. Naofumi reaches for his gun, spins it, and clocks it, ready to fire, and he opens the door to see nobody's there. Nothing but a book. He picks up the book and closes the door once again. He calls someone, or tries to, a matter of fact, but no one answers. There's no cell service for some reason. He looks at the book and opens it, and he begins to read the 4 cardinal heroes. He reads about the sword, the bow, the shield, and obviously the spear. But what does this have to do with him? There's nothing about anything. It's just a book talking about some 4 heroes. He reads on and reads the stories of mostly all of them. But obviously these stories are limited. But why is this book here? Naofumi goes to put it down, but it begins to glow. Once again, Naofumi picks it up and reads that someone else was there. No one else is actually present anymore. The sword, the spear, the bow, the shield, where are they? Where'd they go? Naofumi is confused. He just read it. And then a person appears. Someone with his arms crossed and holstered weapons on his side. Multiple, in fact. And Naofumi is confused. And he reads across as the letters begin to appear. The legendary gun hero. The legendary gun hero. The one that seeks vengeance. The one that she seeks bloodshed. Will the cycle repeat? Or will it what? The text stops there. Naofumi's confused as he looks back up at the note that is on the ceiling to see that it's blank. And it begins to fill with words that he can't even read, as if it was from a different universe. Looking down at the book once again, and he's gone. He's gone in an instant. He's confused at what's happening, and it seems like he's in a new world. But there's nobody even near him. There's nobody around him, but he can hear something from another passageway. He listens closely and hears the spear, the sword, and the bow being greeted. And he's at a loss for words. What about the shield? The shield hero? Wait, what am I saying? How does this even make sense? Where am I? The guards begin to approach and ask who he is. Who am I? How would I know? I just teleported here. They're confused by the remark that Naofumi makes, and Naofumi checks his holster, seeing that he has a gun, but it's more like a flintlock, something that is a very old gun, and Naofumi's really never used one of these. Maybe as a joke, and maybe in a practice range before, but never seriously. And they ask him to drop his weapons, and he even tries. He puts it on the ground and it immediately teleports back into his holster, and the guards are confused. The noblemen are confused. Everyone's confused. They think that maybe this person, he's another hero. They bring him up, and Naofumi begins to ask, well, who are those other people? And they say that those are the other heroes, but they decided not to, summon the shield hero. He's confused by this. Why wouldn't they summon the shield hero? He even asked this, and they say that the shield hero isn't fit for this world. Naofumi, everything he's read to this point, he doesn't really remember. He only remembers the initial reading, nothing about himself. It seems like right when he was teleported here, it was erased from his mind. But it's not like that would matter to him because he doesn't remember it in fact. But with all that said, he meets the king just like the other heroes, and the king even questions who he is, and he explains that he doesn't quite know. It seems like he was given this gun. It has an odd magical gem, it looks, of some sort, at least some green gem, and the king is shocked by this. Maybe this person is some gun hero of some sorts, and the king even questions it, and he asks if they summoned the shield hero, but they say they didn't. And they only summoned the spear, the bow, and the sword, like he said. And Naofumi begins listening and asks, what's the point of not summoning the shield when isn't that the whole folktale, the 4 heroes? And the king says to not question it, that the shield is horrible, useless, and frankly, they don't need him. Naofumi decides that he's not gonna listen to this much more, so he just says that he needs to get out of here. The king says that it's not that simple, that if he is truly one of the heroes, which a gun hero is not something he's ever heard of, but if he is one of the heroes, he's here to fight the waves, help fight the waves, and then he can go home. Fight the waves? Like the waves of catastrophe, like what I read. That's so weird. The king then says that it does seem like he has some knowledge of this, which is good. And Naofumi responds with that he doesn't really know about it, that he'd love to hear it elaborated. So the king begins to explains everything, explains the waves, explains the heroes, and explains more or less everything he possibly really needed to know. Naofumi, now with some closure, begins introducing himself to the king and obviously the other heroes, in which they have no remarks toward him. They do seem to be questioning who exactly he is. He seems hardened, like he's gone to war of some sorts, and Ren even brings this up, saying that he seems rough around the edges. What's that about? It's really simple. In my world, I was a secret agent. That's all you really need to know. Technically, the rest is classified. And Ren is shocked to hear this, and so is the king. They've never had a hero with a background like that. And this will lead to them being pretty okay with Naofumi. Don't get me wrong, they're not gonna praise him. There's a reason why there's a 3-hero church. So they're not gonna just sit there and think that he's some savior of any kind, but he's definitely gonna be useful. This then leads to them obviously heading back to a hotel, relaxing and talking about this world. And they bring up all the gaming knowledge that they see, and Naofumi goes and listens to all of it. Obviously he doesn't know much, and he even admits this, says that he's never been a big gamer, but Ren says with that said, he does make up for it in experience, and they'd love to know what he knows about, well, actual war or actual battles. And Naofumi explains as much as he can, but they really take in as much as possible, but at the end of the day, they still think of this as a video game. Real war really won't help, per se. At least that's what they think. And Naofumi obviously thinks the exact opposite. His lack of gaming experience can be corrected, but the lack of actual fighting experience cannot. You need to experience that in depth. That they've never gone on secret missions to assassinate top mafia mob bosses. They've never done anything of that some sort. Obviously, he doesn't admit that to them and tell them this, but he has this in his mind. The next day, they head to the kingdom once again, and the king greets them. And he begins saying that everybody will be assigned partners, aka will be assigned a group, but they'll be all based on their choosing, leading to Naofumi getting nobody. And Naofumi's fine with this. This is how he works as an agent. He doesn't really care. And he asks if he'll have more compensation than them because of it. The king says that that's just fine, that Naofumi will get 1,500 silver and the rest will get 500 each. Naofumi is fine with this. He thinks that this will be plenty enough to get everything settled how he wants. He immediately, after being dismissed, goes to the blacksmith looking for armor and maybe new guns, depending if he can switch this gun out or not. Finding that they have no guns there. There's really no weaponry at all. And Erhard, the person that is there working at the blacksmith, says that he should look into his weapon. Maybe he has some way of upgrading it, or maybe even changing it. So this gives Naofumi a good idea. He begins searching through his weapon stats and other things like that, eventually finding that he can upgrade this singular pistol, but he also can develop other guns if he can get the base version of it. For instance, if he finds a rifle, he can upgrade that basic musket rifle to something like an AR, and he can continue that trend for a while. But for starters, this pistol is what he has. Basically a flintlock, something that you have to click, 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 and then shoot, is going to be very difficult to use in an actual battle. But luckily, he has a month before that first wave. Erhard asks if he wants anything else, and Naofumi says that he wants something that will protect him, but something that he can move around in. Nothing crazy. And throw in that cape. He likes the way it looks. Naofumi smiles, and Erhard decides to help the kid out, giving him some decent armor and making him look like kind of like a barbarian of some sorts. And he adds the cape, and Naofumi says that this isn't his normal style, but he likes it. It's kind of fitting. Naofumi gives him about 500 silver, and Erhard says that that is way too much. He does not need that much. And Naofumi says that that's just fine, that he'll be back for other stuff anyways, so you can think of it as a pay ahead, or maybe even just a good bonus. Naofumi leaves, and Erhard is completely shocked, but Naofumi knew what he was doing. He wants as many people on his good side as possible. He knows this from, well, his real life, that when you have people on your side like this, especially in terms of weaponry, you will have some benefits. So Naofumi goes out to level up, seeing the rest of the heroes out as well, and he tries to avoid them, knowing that if he gets close, that they will cancel out their XP. So he goes around using his flintlock, getting used to it more and more, killing these small, odd orange balloon-like monsters. He continues this throughout a decent amount of time, even until the nighttime then comes, and he gets a good amount of XP. Especially a good amount of XP for his flintlock, and it seems like it's almost on the bridge of becoming that next weapon. The weapons are obviously completely blacked out, so he doesn't know exactly what they are, but he can assume that it's very slow and it builds up very slow. So if he was to guess, he could say that a flintlock maybe would go to a minor pistol, maybe even a pistol that uses gunpowder that he stuffs in the barrel. Something slightly quicker than possibly blanking a bunch of times. But he doesn't know exactly what will come about it. Maybe he'll get a simple pistol, something very basic, but he'll just have to see when he gets there. Some more time passes and he goes, gets dinner, rents a nice motel, and then goes to sleep. Eventually the night is over and he does the same process, begins leveling up his pistol once again, but on higher level monsters, and he can see that this leveling process will become exponential for him. The fact that he can kill things so quickly is rather ridiculous, and he seems that he can probably level extremely fast. So he goes out and he continues his leveling until he realizes that he's out of bullets. He didn't know that was a thing, but he heads back to the blacksmith and asks if he could make up some bullets, and maybe he'll learn how to make them himself so he can hopefully quick craft them or something of that idea. So the blacksmith makes up some sort of bullet and he absorbs it into his gun, and the gun immediately learns it. Well, learning that bullet actually means that he doesn't need to reload anymore, or at least doesn't need to replenish his bullet amount. So he says that that's perfect, but he'll probably be back for other bullets because he assumes that when he has other guns, it's gonna work a little differently. And the blacksmith, Erhard, obviously says that he's welcome anytime. So Naofumi then heads off and continues training and leveling up, getting his flintlock basically up to max level. And once it does, it evolves into a gun he actually knows pretty well. It's actually a Colt Navy. It's some revolver from the 1850s, and he knows this pretty well. He didn't really know the flintlock very much, but he did know this. Revolvers are kind of one of his favorite guns. So he more or less just continues training with that, seeing that it packs even more of a punch, but it's way more precise. Naofumi finds out exactly what he believed already, that the more he upgrades these guns, the more he's going to level. But he assumes that he'll be holding on to this revolver for a little bit longer than obviously he would be expecting. But after one more night of all that, he begins to head off and thinks that this would be a lot easier if he had more people to help him, or more people to, frankly, help train with him and level up. And that idea will come to fruition pretty quickly. Someone approaches him, some short guy, some odd looking dude that is very suspicious, and he introduces himself as a slave merchant. He invites Naofumi in, and Naofumi asks why he would buy a slave, and he says that it'd be much simpler than talking to some random person on the street and trying to pick them up. Naofumi rolls his eyes and baits the man in, saying that, you know what, maybe it is a good idea, get something that is obedient. I like the way you think, kid. Follow me. So Naofumi follows him in, and he sees tons of beasts, animals, and various things alike, and he realizes that, well, frankly, he's not in his hometown anymore. This is something different. This is slavery to its finest, and he looks around to see a little girl, but then also an older woman about the same age as him, maybe a couple years give or take. He spots them both and gives them a look of concern. It's as if he knows that he wants to get them out. Immediately, the slave merchant is offering him this high-level wolfman for a pricey deal of 15 gold pieces, and Naofumi can't afford that, obviously, and he asks how much is it for that raccoon girl over there. He says it's only 15 silver pieces, and he asks what about this woman right here as well, and he says that she is a little bit more on the pricey side, 2 gold coins at least. Naofumi thinks about it for a second and says that she's more worth 1 gold coin. And he says that there is no bargaining until Naofumi pulls out his revolver and points it at the man. So, would you rather take my deal, or should I blast you in your face and take them myself? Oh, I like the way you chat, young one. Okay, 1 gold coin it is. He takes them both after paying, and even paying a quote-unquote commission, and the slave merchant says that it's going to be a happy relationship between them both. He leaves with both of them, and the older one says that don't get any wrong ideas, but Naofumi cuts her off. I got you out of there for a reason. Leave it alone. I had to pay because if I shot him in the face, well, a lot of things could have gone bad really quickly. So I decided to just pay. How about it? If you want to get that slave crest off, we can do that as well. We'll figure it out. It will cost me some money, you could say, but I kinda do need some assistance in this leveling up business. She asks, who is he anyways, and he spins his revolver, saying that he guesses he's the legendary gun hero. It's a long story. Well, not as long as he thinks, but that's beyond the point. He says that he wants to help them out as best he can, and starting with the little girl. He asks her her name, and she says that it's Raftalia. Well, Raftalia, we're gonna get you some medicine. That's the first thing we're gonna do. We're gonna find a place to stay, and we're gonna get you both some food. How about it? And the older woman is confused. They're supposed to be slaves. Why is he acting like this? And he sees the face that she's making, and he says once again, like I said, I don't see you as slaves. That's not the point. It's not why I got you out. You're very human-like, and Frankly, I have some sympathy for you both. But I can tell you and her have potential. I have a knack for these things. And Naofumi then does exactly what he says. He gets some medicine, allows Raphtalia to recover, and gets a motel for all of them, getting different rooms so that they'd even feel more comfortable, getting them both the same room because he actually didn't know that they knew each other very well. It seems like one is named Raphtalia and the other by the name of Sedina. Naofumi explains that they both need to be able to pull their weights, and he wants them on his party if they so choose. Frankly, he could just decide to leave those sleigh crests on and they would have no choice, but for now, they'll be on. But he wants to know if they're really willing to help him. And Raphtalia is completely up for this. The fact that Naofumi has been treating her with the utmost of respect and also feeding her food and all of the above, Raphtalia has no problem with this, and Sedina is a little skeptical. She's not so sure about this Naofumi character, at least not yet, until they start beginning to battle. He makes sure that he gets Raphtalia and Sedina some new, armor and other weapons, eventually learning of Sedina's whale form or killer whale form. Naofumi is very impressed by this and says that there's no reason for her to really be leveling up in that unless the situation is dire, but it is a good thing to know. Naofumi obviously gets Raphtalia a sword and various other items and eventually begins their leveling up process. Raphtalia goes through a lot of struggles, but Naofumi and Sedina are there to push her in the right direction, eventually breaking her from her scared-like state that she normally is in. Eventually, he actually asks Erhard about any ways to make money quickly, and frankly he could by just running around and killing things, and he'll eventually make a decent amount of money with the output that he's been at, but he would like another way to make money, at least for now. He says that he could take all three of them to Loot Village, and then there's some other places around there that would probably be better, but he's heard of a cave that is nearby, but he should ask the residents there first. So that's what Naofumi does. They head over to Loot Village with Raphtalia and Sedina, and they begin to ask the locals. They ask the locals very nicely, and obviously Naofumi is a pretty calm person, and he asks them about this cave or any way of getting money quickly. And they say that the only reason why people haven't gone there recently is the fact that the monsters in the wave are actually still residing in there, or at least some of them. Without really much care, Naofumi takes a pickaxe and heads over. Once he gets there, he begins mining the profitable gems until he sees this giant beast. Raphtalia is frozen, and Sedina even knows that this needs to be her kill. Naofumi nods and even backs up, saying Raphtalia needs to fight on her own for this. She's strong enough and she can beat it. Raphtalia is scared, but she musters every bit of strength to kill the beast, and she begins crying, terrified at the fact that she was able to kill it, but now knows that she upholds this power, enough power to truly protect people the way that she wasn't able to be protected or protect others before. And Raphtalia hugs Naofumi, and Naofumi smiles, saying that he's happy that she was able to build from this and get over being scared of this monster. Even if she will always be scared to a certain extent, overcoming the fear is what matters. Naofumi, Raphtalia, and Sedina mine up some of the ores and then head off, selling it for a decent price and getting some good money, and their training and leveling up continues on from there. After a month of leveling up is over, the preparation for the next wave finally begins. Naofumi still stuck with his revolver, which is he personally feels to be plenty enough to handle anything that will come in this wave. He then heads over to Erhard. He begins talking to him about getting those specialty weapons he actually ordered. Sedina and Raphtalia ask what he's talking about, and he says that he ordered them both weapons, at least special weapons that would fit their level that he predicted by the time they would get here. They're shocked to hear this, and Erhard smiles and brings out the weapons, one being a pretty big trident, and the other being a specialty sword that Earhart explains to be made of some precious metal. And they're both shocked to see this and both thank Naofumi for obviously the new weapons. After getting their new weapons, they head over to the Dragon's Hourglass to check what time or when the wave will currently begin, because the Dragon's Hourglass measures the time in between each wave. They arrive at the capital's cathedral and its hourglass, and it looks like the wave will begin in the next 24 hours or so. Actually, while they're there, they see the other heroes. The other heroes greet them, but when they see the two women next to Naofumi, they're kind of confused. Ren and Itsuki don't say a word really, but Motoyasu actually goes to greet them, trying to be all flirtatious as he normally is, but Sedina and Raphtalia don't really care. They kind of push him away and say that they're with the gun hero or they're with Naofumi, so to not get any ideas. Naofumi kind of smiles at this and laughs when Motoyasu tries to make his moves on them, and Motoyasu just gets frustrated. And Naofumi sees this. It's odd that Motoyasu would get frustrated upon this. These people are part of his party. It seems like his ego is definitely at an all-time high currently, and there's a big reason for that. That's Mine herself. Mine has something up her sleeve, has something that Naofumi is definitely worried about. Because Mine begins to look closely at Sedina and Raphtalia, seeing their slave crests, and making sure that, well, her plan will go according to exactly what she wants. But Naofumi currently doesn't know this. He just has suspicions of something that is going to occur. But with all that said and done, they talk about the wave for a little bit, and Naofumi heads off to make the rest of his preparations, getting some healing items and other things like that. With that all said and done, the timer for the first wave, at least for Naofumi and the heroes, is about to begin. They're teleported into where the wave is currently, and they decide to head over to Loot Village to make sure that they are all safe. When Naofumi arrives, it seems like it's running rampant with these giant hornets and these skeletal-like monsters and various other zombie creatures that begin attacking the people. He tells Sedina and Raphtalia to get on it immediately and to protect them and evacuate the village as quick as possible, and they do just that, as Naofumi hops up on a tower and begins to look down. I guess it's a perfect time to try out my new little move, you could say. I guess it's high noon. Naofumi then begins to unload his revolver at an insane pace, putting bullets in every single monster's head. One after another is dropped, and his XP gain begins to go up like crazy, including his parties. They're confused at why they're gaining XP at such a rapid rate until they look up to see Naofumi spraying his revolver at all of the monsters down below. Even with that, monsters continue to flood in like crazy, but luckily with the strength of Raphtalia, Sedina, it's relatively easy to actually fend off these monsters, and Naofumi himself is extremely strong, actually stronger than them. So frankly, this first wave is a bit of a wash, especially protecting Loot Village. It's clean and easy. He's able to protect them with relative ease, and then eventually the other heroes defeat the main boss. And after all of this is said and done, it's time to head back to the castle. They're invited for a state dinner, and Naofumi isn't going to disagree because, well, Sedina loves to drink and Raphtalia loves to eat some good food, so he'll never disagree to doing so. They both head in, and Sedina asks Naofumi to have some drinks with her, but Naofumi isn't really a big drinker. He doesn't like drinking, at least not recently, and she asks why, and he says that he used to drink, but he used to actually get pretty, you could say, happy, a little too happy when he would drink. Sedina eyes widen, and she tries to hand him multiple drinks, and Naofumi says that he knows what she's trying to do, and he's not gonna fall for it. Sedina smiles and says fine, and she just continues to drink. Obviously, Sedina is a heavy drinker, and she's pretty well off in terms of drinking. She won't even really get drunk by any means. Some of the other heroes even try to challenge her, more like Motoyasu tries, and some other people from their parties, but it's not like any of them can keep up with her, even when she continues to drink throughout the entire night. This then leads, though, to Motoyasu hearing of Raphtalia and Sedina being slaves. The fact that they're slaves boils in his mind, and Mine continues to batter him about it, saying that that isn't right, that they have to help them, that they have to get them out. And this, well, occurs when Motoyasu throws his glove at the feet of Naofumi. Naofumi asks what is he doing, and Motoyasu says that it's ridiculous for a hero to have slaves in his party, and Naofumi begins to say that, well, it's his choice to have slaves and they are legal, but also on top of that, it's by choice. He's offered them multiple times to get that slave crest off, and they've said no. They even confirm this. They say that is completely true, that they, of their own free will, have the slave crest on. Naofumi has offered it to him to get it erased. And Motoyasu refuses to believe this, and so does Mine. Mine begins to basically manipulate Motoyasu, saying that there's no way that any slave would agree to that. And Naofumi is just confused. Like, why did they have anything against him? It literally doesn't matter. You can tell by the way they're acting that they're comfortable with Naofumi. There's not a flinch on them. There's not a scratch on them. There's nothing wrong with them. Like, it doesn't matter. And Naofumi says that he'll decline the offer of a duel, and the king says that he cannot do so. So Sedina steps up, saying that if Motoyasu wants a duel, that she'll duel him. You see, Naofumi will easily defeat you. But I guess it is a little bit more fair of a fight if I fight you, Mr. Spear Hero. Mine finds this ridiculous, that Naofumi has to fight not one of his underlings. And Sedina says that she'll fight Mine if that's the case, and how about it's a 2v2? Naofumi and Sedina versus Mine and Motoyasu. And Mine laughs at this, saying that Sedina wouldn't even stand a chance against them. And Naofumi laughs and says that if that's the duel, he'll duel. Sedina and Naofumi versus Motoyasu and Mine. Motoyasu accepts, and the king says that that's fair as well, but if Naofumi loses, that he has to set free the slaves. And he says that's fine, they're not gonna lose. And he says that he actually wants money from Motoyasu if he wins, and that's how it's going to be. That he'll get his party members some new items when he beats them. They walk out and begin to head to an arena. They both stand in an arena, and Naofumi looks at Sedina, saying to not transform just yet. Sedina asks why, that they can end the fight really quickly, and he says that he wants to give them a little bit of false hope. And Sedina kind of laughs at this and says that Naofumi is kind of malicious, and Naofumi just raises his hand, saying that they started it. So their battle begins. The spear hero charges at Naofumi, and Naofumi easily dodges, putting a bullet in his chest, not hurting him very much at all, because Naofumi doesn't want that. He's actually just playing with him. He wants to make sure that this fight draws out as long as he wants. He continues dodging as he watches Sedina fight Mine, and frankly, it's not a fair match. Even in her human form, it's not fair. Mine cannot keep up with Sedina, but Sedina is just keeping her on the back foot. Sedina's not even using her trident. It's still holstered in the back of her, and she's just using hand-to-hand combat. Frankly, Naofumi even realizes that this is quite the waste of time, putting a bullet in the leg of the spear hero and then putting a bullet in his chest, wounding him but obviously not killing him. Naofumi can make sure that he pulls back on his bullets. It might sound odd, but he has relatively good control over guns and weaponry. He knows where to place bullets, and he knows how to at least make his bullets weaker, you could say. He eventually puts Motoyasu immediately out of commission. It's practically over, and it's just Mine. Mine says that that's ridiculous, that they must have cheated, and Sadina smiles as she begins to transform. Naofumi actually just sits down on the ground and keeps spinning his gun on his finger. Cheated, huh? I mean, this is what you wanted. You wanted to fight. I'm not the one that said I wanted to fight. You wanted to fight. Mine is looking in shock at this killer whale that stands in front of her, shaking and trembling in all her might. She can't even move. Sadina picks her up and immediately throws her at a wall, and Mine is out cold. The fight is over. Everybody is shocked, and the heroes actually kind of laugh at this. They knew Naofumi was outclassing Motoyasu and Mine, and frankly, he might be outclassing them at this point, which does kind of get them frustrated, but will make them want to level up and train harder in the future, which will definitely benefit them very soon. But without all that said and done, Motoyasu is forced to fork over all the money that was basically in the deal, and Naofumi takes it and says that they'll be leaving now, that they have some more leveling up to do and some things to do. So that's what they do. They head off to a motel for the night, and he gets them obviously separate rooms, and they sleep once again. But when he wakes up the next morning, a pit in his stomach will drop. The feeling of anxiety will overwhelm him. Naofumi walks out of his room to not see Sadina and Raphtalia. They're always there before him, always wake up before him, and they always say that they wanted to let him sleep a little longer. He walks to their room, opens it to see nobody's there, and that there must have been one hell of a struggle. He begins to freak out and looks at his party to see that they still are in his party, that they have the slave crest still on them, but what's going on? This makes no sense. He heads over to see them getting basically shackled up and thrown into a carriage. It seems like Sadina is extremely hurt. She must have taken the brunt of an attack for Raphtalia or something. Naofumi runs down there and immediately shoots one of the wheels out, walking toward them to see that there's tons of guards that surround him. They say that this is at the request of the royal guard and the church, that these slaves be taken away from Naofumi. Naofumi warns them, "Don't play games with me. You give them back now, or I'm going to kill you all." Naofumi is serious, dead serious. He's pissed now. He won that duel fair and square, and now royalty wants to screw him over again. He's not going to let that happen, ever. Naofumi puts his gun up to one of the guards' heads and says that if they don't put their weapons down now, that there's going to be a serious problem. The other heroes show up, and Motoyasu begins to say that this is of the royal decree, that he can't do anything. The other heroes say that this is ridiculous, that taking away something that is rightfully Naofumi's, even if they don't agree with slavery, is definitely far beyond belief of what they should be doing. Before Naofumi could say anything, it seems like Raphtalia and Sadina are teleported away by the use of this odd magic. He sees that they're gone, and he's surrounded by multiple guards, more than even usual, and Naofumi is now pissed. He looks behind Motoyasu to see Mine smirking and thinking that she got her way. "I'm gonna give you 10 seconds to tell me where you took them. If you don't, everybody is dropping. Everybody is dying." Mine begins to talk, saying this or that, and that he'll never see them again. And Naofumi continues to count down. 9, 8, 7. Motoyasu scoffs at this and says that what are they, little kids? 5, 4, 3. The other two heroes, Ren and Itsuki, are gone. They do not care. This does not concern them, and frankly, they don't want a bullet in their head. And even if they could survive it, it wouldn't feel good in the next morning. So they leave immediately, and Motoyasu continues to batter Naofumi, saying that he can't do anything about it, and Mine says the same thing. 1, 0. They all stand there waiting in anticipation for something to happen, and Mine laughs, saying that he wasn't going to do anything. But as she says this, she's cut off. Bullets ring wild, and all of the guards drop dead. I told you, don't play games with me. Where did you bring my party members? They say that they brought them to another slave market, and Naofumi realizes that he can check in his weapon and his menu where they are currently, immediately knowing where they were. He was just in such rage that he didn't think about checking, but he's still pissed. He is out for vengeance, you could say. This boiling feeling over his body, he can feel it in his hands, in his gun. His gun is showing this red aura now, but it begins to fade away when he calms down. He spins his gun, putting it away, and begins walking. I'm gonna go get my party members back, and if there's a scratch on them, I'm gonna lay you out like the guards I just did. Naofumi continues walking and leaves. The spear hero and Mine are in complete shock at the fact that Naofumi just laid them out in cold blood. Naofumi doesn't care anymore. He only cared about these two people in the first place, and now he's pissed. He's a secret agent for a reason. In his world, this is the worst that you possibly could do. Take away someone's family. Once you take away someone's family, you're dead. There is no coming back from that. And Naofumi feels this boiling up within him. Eventually he does find the two, in which they were able to break free, and the same slave merchant is there and says that to not worry, that he kept in good care with them. He's heard about what happened and it's just not good. So he immediately gives Raphtalia and Sedina back, but says that they could easily pitch even more money now, and Naofumi says that sounds ridiculous. Naofumi tosses him some silver coins and he asks, what is this for? For helping out. Commission, you could say. They both hug Naofumi and apologize for not being able to defend themselves, that they got jumped when they were sleeping and they really couldn't react quick enough. Naofumi says that it's fine, that it doesn't matter anymore, and that they're going to be dealing with their own problems pretty soon anyways. And the slave merchant says if that's the case, then why not try one of these eggs? Naofumi is confused and asks why would he do that, and he says that, well, these eggs have a chance at giving you an amazing dragon, or the least you can get is a Filolial. And Raphtalia says that they should take one, that it would be awesome to have another monster on the team. I mean, one that's like actually a monster. And Sedina says that is true, that she has to transform into one. So Naofumi decides to take one of the eggs. And not too long after that, the egg actually hatches, surprisingly enough. It seems it has something to do with Naofumi's skills, something to do with him being one of the legendary heroes. He doesn't question it, but he does watch as this bird continues to grow and grow. The Filolial is practically full size, or what he thinks to be full size, in just a couple days. They then decide to head down to Loot Village to see how they're recovering, and when he arrives, he sees that they're recovering pretty well. He actually brings them some money as well to make sure that everything will go silky smooth. Luckily, everything does. He's over at the village and he helps all of them begin to clean up more and more. That's until footsteps after footsteps can be heard. They approach Loot Village and it's Motoyasu and Mine. Naofumi stands in front of all the villagers and asks what they're doing. And Mine says that they were able to overlook all the bodies that he killed, especially since they were part of the royal guard. But Motoyasu has been given this land. Naofumi immediately pulls out his revolver and says that it's not that simple. He can't just walk in and say that he owns something. They say they have a royal decree, and Naofumi says he doesn't care, that all the villagers here won't be too happy about it anyways. Naofumi begins to explain that these are the same people that tried to take away his two party members, the two party members that graciously helped all of them survive during the wave, including himself, They ask Naofumi how would that even be possible, and he says that they basically attacked them while they were sleeping. The villagers are not happy about this, even getting out their weapons as well to defend Naofumi and his party, and Naofumi stands his ground, saying that they need to leave now or else. And the spear hero and also Mine say that he's going to regret this, that he's going to regret being this way. But as she says this, one of the shadows comes down and begins speaking, handing Mine this odd looking letter. Mine begins to get frustrated and tells Motoyasu that they need to leave anyways. So they head off, but Naofumi stares at the person, the girl that looks like this odd secret agent. He knows one when he sees one, obviously, because he was one in his past world, and tries to ask her a question, but the shadow immediately disappears. But before she does, she says that she'll be in touch with Naofumi very soon. Raphtalia and Sedina ask if he knows who that is, but he says that he has no clue, that he just hopes that she's on their side, or at least in a neutral position. After all that is settled, Naofumi says that they'll be back soon to check in on them, but they actually need to head off and do some things. As he says this though, the giant bird, Philo, begins to grow one more time, becoming massive. So as a payment, Loot Village obviously cannot give him anything other than this small cart, or it's actually not too small, but small in comparison to Philo now. They take the cart and continue their leveling up spree, but the night they go to sleep. Most of them sleep in the cart, but Naofumi sleeps outside to make sure everything will be safe and sound, and so does Philo, obviously being too big to sleep in the cart. But when he awakens, Philo's a little girl with wings. They're all confused and ask what's happening, but all of that goes out the window when it's more or less explained that it's Philo. So Naofumi and his party head to Erhard asking about anything in terms of maybe a dress that could magically change to her body, but he says he can't make anything like that. He needs that on special order, and unluckily he hasn't gotten that order at all. So Erhard sends him off to the dressmaker, in which then sends him to the magic owner shop, blah blah blah. Eventually they need to more or less get a gemstone that allows her to make this special magical thread. So they head off on their little journey to find this gem, eventually meeting this wealthy trader. He asks to be taken in the direction that they're heading. Well, that is until a bandit group attacks them in their wagon. Immediately they are defeated very swiftly, but they say that they can't wait to tell the royal guards about what happened with the gun hero. The gun hero did this or that, and that the gun hero assaulted them. Now Fumi doesn't care. He says that if he really wants to, he'd put a bullet in their head, straight through their eyes, but he doesn't want to do that in front of his, well, respected teammates. And they are shocked at the aggression Naofumi is giving. Naofumi has never been this, enraged by something. It must have been what happened when they were captured and taken away. Naofumi is feeling himself get mad, furious at the fact that he wasn't able to protect his teammates, and they just decide that they're going to threaten them with Philo, and then eventually they'll make sure to not say a word, in which they never do. Naofumi then takes all their stuff and then leaves, eventually leading them to this odd alchemist tomb that basically will house this cursed seed, but that cursed seed is not even there, which is very disconcerting for Naofumi, but he doesn't think too much of it. He has some other things to do, so that's what he does. After going through all these tunnels, they begin hearing voices of each other as if they were going to betray each other. Naofumi was hearing voices of Raphtalia and Sedina saying that they didn't care that Naofumi saved them, that they wished that they were still gone, that they wished that they were still free. Naofumi shakes his head as the magic lady basically tells them that to ignore it, that that's what they want them to hear. So Naofumi, using one of his gun's abilities, he tracks all of the bats around him and shoots them, instantly killing them. He's able to absorb it into his gun, which gives it some special effects, but obviously nothing insane. His gun is actually upgraded past his normal revolver, more like a magnum of some sorts, definitely a lot more powerful and has a lot more range, which is very convenient for Naofumi. He then enters into a small area, a cave of some sorts, and it seems like it's being guarded. The gem that they want is being guarded by Anu, which is a tiger-like creature with insane abilities. Quickly, Naofumi blasts it in all the crucial points of its body, and Raphtalia, Philo, and Sedina are able to finish it off quickly. With really no struggle at all, they're able to get the gem, and Naofumi even absorbs some of the monster into his gun, giving him actually poison bullets, which will come in handy for monsters that he cannot insta-kill with crucial points. If he can get poison into their bloodstream, it will obviously have some insane effects. With the gemstone in hand, obviously they use this magic thread to make clothing for Philo, but they actually decide to make clothing or new clothing for Sedina as well, especially that she has her whale or killer whale like form that she'd love to have clothing for too. So they both get that done, and once they're finished, they're actually tasked by the wealthy trader that they had before to deliver a herbicide to a certain village. But before he can do this, he's actually asked by this odd person that's running down the roadway to please take him to his nearby home to give his mother this medicine. Naofumi gladly does this, but says that Philo's a rough ride when she's just, out and about. And he's confused by this, but quickly Naofumi takes them to the mother, eventually giving her the medicine, but unluckily the medicine isn't as good, especially because Naofumi doesn't have the ability he once had in another universe. But with all that said and done, they begin heading over to the herbicide, or the village they need to give the herbicide to. Naofumi's party though discovers the village is overrun by plants and monstrous monsters, it seems like, these plants that were turned into monsters. They learn that the seed from the tomb is what the spear hero Motoyasu used to end the local famine, but it sprouted, came alive, and just destroyed the village, killed multiple villagers, and with Motoyasu gone, Naofumi is the only one that can really help out. Naofumi says that he has no real way of curing this, but he does have an idea. Maybe he can absorb some of the herbicide into his weapon, making some sort of really potent antidote for the plants that are overrunning this place. It's a risk, because if the risk doesn't pay off, this herbicide that is used for at least protecting the village for a short amount of time will be useless in the future and be useless right now. But the people there trust him, and so does his party. He absorbs it into his weapon and walks over toward the plant, shooting multiple poison-like bullets and herbicide-like bullets into the plants, and eventually it degrades the plants. Slowly, and they're gone. Unluckily enough though, he personally doesn't know how to make any crazy plants for the people to survive on, but he has some leftover stuff from his trips. In his cart, or obviously his wagon, he has some extra seeds and stuff like that could help them out, but he personally isn't a specialist in any of that. He apologizes, but they say that he's done enough. So he ends up heading off once again, and his next trip will be to a near hot spring to deliver some merchandise. They all sit in the hot spring, and Raphtalia, Sedina, and Philo will obviously compete over each other, weirdly enough, for Naofumi's affection, but Naofumi doesn't really care. He's also kind of clueless. Even in his old world, he doesn't really know too much about all that, but he can tell somewhat what they're doing, which he is kind of annoyed about. But other than that, they finish up their trip there, and they head off to the next village, finding that a mysterious disease is spreading through it. Unfortunately enough, Ren, the sword hero, actually was here. He killed this dragon and left its corpse to rot, and it's basically just toxic, and it's ruining the air around the village, making it unbearable to be around. This then leads to obviously monsters and other things around the corpse, and they have to somehow get rid of it. So that's the plan. They go up to get rid of the corpse, but it resurrects. The once dragon turns into a zombie dragon. Philo goes to fight it, but the dragon swallows it. Philo. In a fit of rage, Sedina tries to transform and attack the dragon, but even she is severely wounded. This dragon is extremely strong. Naofumi's eyes begin to light up. Everybody is going to die around him. He's going to lose everything. And all of this is happening because of those idiot heroes. They don't know how to do their own jobs properly. It all started with Mine and the spear hero trying to sabotage him. Why would you sabotage the only person that's trying to do a good job? Ren and Itsuki, he thought they were different. Maybe they're the same. Maybe Ren is just as bad. He left this corpse here to rot and now he's having to deal with it. Who knows what Itsuki's been doing? And frankly, Naofumi has a right to be so angry. So mad. He's so mad that his skin begins to crawl. His skin begins to light up a red. It's odd. His veins begin to pop and everything around him begins to dissolve. It feels like everything around him is non-existent. All he can feel is his firearms. All he wants is death. He just wants his vengeance. On the screen in front of him, it says unlocked. Curse series, vengeance, unlocked. Naofumi is in shock. He doesn't know what's happening, but he doesn't care. He spins his gun and he feels another one in his left hand, finding that it's two desert eagles, two that are glowing in this red and green color. He aims them at the dragon, and both Sedina and Raphtalia watch in complete awe, terrified at the power that Naofumi's showing. He shoots one bullet at the dragon, and it's this piercing color of red, and it's like a laser beam of some sorts. No, it's just a bullet, but a bullet enforced with so much curse power, so much power behind it that it looks like it's flying with an extra, laser following it. He begins to spray his deagles one after another. He shoots again, tearing the zombie dragon into pieces. It begins to light ablaze and he begins to shred it like some Swiss cheese. He's destroying the dragon, and in an instant, the dragon is defeated again. He puts his weapons away and walks up to the dragon. He's pissed. He just let one of his comrades die. That's until Philo falls out of the dragon. And Naofumi sighs in relief and his body begins to calm down. Whatever he just did is definitely hurting him. He can feel it. Philo runs over and spits up this odd looking fragment and asks Naofumi to absorb it. So that's what he does. He begins to be shocked that this power that he's getting from this fragment is insane. This zombie dragon must have had insane capabilities before it died. Ren must be insanely strong, or maybe he just caught Ren on a bad or on a really good day. He doesn't question anymore. Luckily, Sedina, Philo, and Raphtalia aren't hurt too much, and they just head down the mountain after disposing of the zombie dragon entirely. The villagers thank him graciously, but Naofumi's still lost in his own head, thinking about what just occurred, and they ask him if he's feeling okay, and he says that he's fine. He's sorry for not realizing this sooner, that he should have gotten rid of this whenever it occurred. And they said it's not his fault, it was the sword heroes, and he nods. He says that his team needs to go, so they begin to head off, and they ask him what's going on. Whatever power he displayed was serious, and he didn't look like himself. Naofumi puts his head down and says that that wasn't him. It didn't feel like him. It felt like that rage that built up inside him, the want for vengeance when, they were taken away. That's what happened again. He wanted vengeance on the dragon, vengeance for killing Philo, for taking her away from him. And Philo says that that's actually amazing that he cares so much, and Naofumi smiles and says that of course he does, he cares about all of them, but that's not the point, that he lost control. and that shouldn't have happened. They begin asking him if something else happened in the other world, the world that he came from. What happened back there? Is there a reason why he acts this way or acted that way when all that occurred? They know that he cares about them, but that wouldn't bring somebody to do such a thing. And they're not scornful about it. They're actually happy he did it, happy that he cares so much, but they just want to know. He looks at them and shakes his head and says that he doesn't know if he can talk about it. Not right now. Maybe not ever. But he'll let them know if he can. They all just nod. They don't really question much, thinking that it must be something very, very bad if he feels this way. And they're not going to press any harder on this, or at least the subject. They then eventually make it to this odd-looking field, a field of Philolials, where they'll meet their temporary new party member by the name of Melty. Melty quickly makes friends with Philo, and Philo brings her in to Naofumi, asking if they can basically accompany her to the capital. Melty needs a little bit of an escort and that she's a bit lost. And Naofumi decides that he can do just that. He doesn't really mind. So once there, Philo and Melty go on their way, as Naofumi and Raphtalia head off to do some other things. Sedina, on the other hand, just continues to look around and get the bearings for the place entirely. But that's until she hears something. Hears the spear hero shout toward Naofumi, and she turns, immediately going toward it, as the spear hero charges at Naofumi and tries to strike him down, but he quickly dodges. Naofumi says that he's not here to fight, and frankly, if he was, the spear hero would be dead right now on the ground. Motoyasu scoffs at this, saying that that's ridiculous, and even Mine says that the spear hero is far stronger than him. But Sedina even says that that is far from the truth. Naofumi is very, very much more powerful than Motoyasu, and it's blatantly obvious. During the town square face-off, the spear hero still wants to fight Naofumi, saying that, well, Philo should not be under control, as well as Raphtalia and Sedina, that this is ridiculous. He's demanding her freedom, all their freedoms. Naofumi says that he can't be demanding those things, and as he says this, Melty comes up. Melty arrives in order for them all to stop, saying that she is the princess, or the queen, or the next to be queen at least. Philo is shocked by this, and so is Naofumi, and he gets an uneasy feeling in his stomach, thinking that she is royalty. Royalty has already screwed him royally, ironically enough, and he doesn't know if he should really trust her. Looking at Philo and the rest of them, and they're not sure either. They've seen all that royalty can do, but Melty becomes more and more trustworthy as she explains the toxic personality that Malty has, and that's why she's not next in line to be the queen. They then head off to Erhard's shop, in which Melty tries to explain to Naofumi. Naofumi addresses his concerns, saying all of these things, that it's hard for him to trust her, especially with something like this. Everything that happened, she is royalty. Melty says that she understands, but she promises she's not like her sister, not like whatever else happened, and she promises that. Out of goodwill to his party, he decides to believe her, even if himself he's questioning if she's being completely honest. But that doesn't matter right now. They have some things to attend to. He knows that Raphtalia, Sedina, and Philo are at already a cap of 40. Of course, he can go past that cap of 40 pretty easily. He's a relatively high level at this point, bridging 45 to even 50, higher than everybody else in his party, but he knows that they all need class upgrades, so he begins to head off to the Hourglass. But when he arrives, he's greeted with some odd news. The royal decree forbids his party for using the Hourglass. He questions why they would forbid it, and they begin saying that they can't let him if he's not part of one of the three heroes. He looks up at the church once again and is confused, but realizes that even though he's not the shield hero, he is still going to be stricken like one and stricken like him. It doesn't matter to him though. There's other ways of getting around this, and he's actually gotten this information before, way beforehand actually, from the merchant that sells slaves. He's told him that there is multiple nations that would allow him to do such a thing, so he decides that that will be his next move. He'll head over to the neighboring country, Shield Frieden, for their hourglass after the next wave. So he begins to just scout out anything he possibly can, villages and other things like that, eventually finding some starving refugees. By some, I mean a lot. A good amount of refugees, a village worth, fled a revolution that was started by the bow hero. And this is not good news to hear. Ren and Itsuki are both very careless, and Naofumi is pretty frustrated by this. He's not mad by any means because they seem like careless kids. That's what it feels like to him, but he settles it. He makes sure that he gets as much food as possible to them, and also a means of planting and other things like that, eventually leading to them trying to reestablish themselves. But with only really less than 24 hours to help, he can't really do more than that. So he returns for the next wave, and he actually encounters Ren and Itsuki, and they accuse him of stealing rewards, but Naofumi is pretty frustrated by this. He says that that is actually kind of correct in a way, but there's one thing that they're missing. Ren killed a dragon that won't just disappear like some video game. He needs to be chopped up and disposed of. That created a plague for the village right below it. Ren is shocked to hear this, and then he points at Itsuki. Itsuki started a revolution, made a new government, but just corrupted it, just like the old one. He's too careless with his actions, both of them are. Ren is shocked by this, and so is Itsuki, and they feel extremely bad. If this is 100% true, they're really not good heroes. They didn't do what they were supposed to do, and maybe this will wake them up a little bit, at least to reality of this world. But as we know, they do have quick memories, so there's no guarantee that they'll be able to fulfill a promise that they'll be trying to make currently. With all that said and done though, Erhard begins to give Naofumi and the rest of his party some new armor. Erhard even gives him a new weapon, saying that it's something that he requested a long time ago, but luckily he's able to get it right before the wave, and he's sorry that it took so long. It's completely fine. I owe you one for this. This should be pretty beneficial. Naofumi looks at it, and it's a small handheld shotgun. It's a small snub double barrel, you could say, and it packs one hell of a punch. He tests it out for a little bit, obviously after copying and absorbing it into his weapon and giving him a whole new line of weapons to work with, starting with his snub double barrel, leading to various other shotguns, in which he really needs to get a rifle. Something that long range would help in the waves tremendously. But for now, at least he has his revolver, and it's more of an upgraded revolver, closer to that Deagle he had during the Curse series, in which he doesn't even truly understand the entirety of that Curse series, you could say. Vengeance series. He knows what vengeance is. He's felt it before in his previous world. But why is it so heavy in this one? Is it contracting from both? Both the one that he lived in and the one that he's in now? Is vengeance that heavy on his mind? He's not sure. He's not quite sure, but maybe deep down inside he knows. But that's not the problem right now, especially with the wave only 24 hours away. He equips Raftalia, Philo, and obviously Sedina as well with as much things as possible, and also the unit captain of the knights that actually approached him not too long ago. They all set up at Loot Village, and once they do, the wave begins. They begin battling, fighting the monsters off easily, very easily actually. Naofumi's range with his revolver, and the fact how strong Raftalia, Sedina, and Philo are, even without the class upgrades, is astonishing, you could say. He's destroying everything before it even gets close to the village, but it seems that this thing is not coming. Nothing is happening. the heroes, what are they doing? So Philo, Naofumi, Raphtalia, and Sedina head off and leave the Loot Village protection to the other people there, and when they arrive, they see that they're struggling with this Dutchman of some sorts, and Naofumi chastises them for their inattention, in which Naofumi says to strike at the shadow. Sedina immediately throws her trident at it, and that forces the Soul Eater to arrive. The bow hero begins to shoot at it, and the spear hero tries to strike it as well, and Naofumi gets frustrated, blasting it like crazy with his revolver, and as it falls to the ground, he shoots it one more time with his double barrel, getting some really good XP leading up to his next gun. He's not gonna get it quite yet, but the XP is definitely going to help, and if there's any more monsters, he'll definitely get some more XP for that as well. And his wishes kinda come true. Another Soul Eater is upon them. Another one that he'll be able to take down with relative ease, and Sedina is about to strike it as well with Raphtalia, but something happens. It gets pierced by multiple needle-like, magic things, and collapses onto the ship. They're shocked to see this, wondering who did it. He even looks at Itsuki, but Itsuki shakes his head. He didn't do that. No one else did either. The spear hero didn't, and so Ren didn't either. He looks up to see a woman dressed in a black kimono, wielding two twin-bladed war fans. Now this is the true enemy of this wave. Glass, the raven-like invader. She's from somewhere else. Naofumi can even tell, and she immediately strikes down the other three heroes' parties and the other three heroes. And Naofumi is face to face with her, spinning his revolver in his hand, staring at her. Now you are definitely stronger than these other weaklings, huh? You'd be correct. I am. Now, I apologize, Mr. Naofumi. You seem like a good guy, but unfortunately you have to die. That is unfortunate. Sucks it's not gonna happen. Naofumi watches as Philo charges in, immediately kicking at Glass, but Glass is able to easily parry this, and Raphtalia follows up, and so does Sedina, but they don't stand a chance. Naofumi immediately tells them to fall back, that this is not a fight that they can win, and Glass smiles and says that sounds about right, but can he really stand up to her as well? Naofumi pulls out his revolver and shoots at her stomach, and she dodges slightly. Now that was good. You have a strong bullet there. Not the strongest thing I've got, but I might not need it against you. He begins unloading his mag toward Glass as he closes the distance, trying to maybe lean on this double barrel. Maybe he can land a nice double barrel to her chest or any vital points, and he looks for just that. And he finds it, landing one right on her leg, and it hurts her pretty decently. Naofumi is really strong at this point, but Glass is able to recover very quickly. Now this is of concern. Naofumi even considers activating his curse series, which he'll probably end up having to do. Glass blasts at him, and in turn he has to protect his teammates, jumping off the ship, and during this Philo begins to run away as they're all on top of her. But that's not gonna work. Naofumi apologizes and says that he's going to have to do it, and they shake their heads and say that they understand, that it's fine as long as they're safe. Two deagles appear in his hands, and the curse series begins to activate, but half of his clothing begins to change as well. It begins to change into this odd black looking clothing, but it's very sharp, as if it's a marksman like clothing with serrated edges, as if, well, he's half of this black armor, as if he got this armament when he activated this Vengeance curse series, as if it evolved even further. He points the two deagles at Glass and begins shooting like crazy. Glass can feel the power coming off of them and dodges the best she possibly can until she gets clipped. She gets clipped slightly in the leg, and she can feel how much damage that would do if it landed cleanly. It's crazy. It's as if these beams are built up of every kill Naofumi has ever gotten. And Glass shakes her head, thinking that that's ridiculous. She goes to to use an attack, blasting at Naofumi, but one bullet from one of his deagles completely neutralizes it. Naofumi begins to shoot like crazy back at Glass, but he can feel his body giving out, but he ignores it. If she dies here, it won't matter anymore. But it won't matter is correct, because Glass begins to get pulled back into the wave, and she makes her escape. Did she want to escape? It didn't seem like it. It looked to Naofumi that she wanted to stay and tough it out and try to beat him anyways, but that wouldn't have been the best choice. She would have died right there. But luckily, everybody was safe, and luckily, nobody was able to die in this scenario. But even Naofumi questions the legitimacy of these other heroes. With all that done and put away, they're all sent to the castle once again. And the king immediately demands Naofumi to give up his secret. But Naofumi says that he won't do such a thing. And it's not even a secret. It's basically his daughter being a prick. And he says to watch his mouth. He might not be able to kill him, but he can sure torture his slave. But as the king goes to say this, Naofumi blasts him in the leg. You think I care that you're royalty? You think I care about any of these people? What are they gonna do? They're gonna, what, capture me? No. I'll kill them too. It just makes me stronger, it seems. And I could put a bullet in your head, and everything would be a lot more simple for me. I heard you have a queen. I heard she's a little bit more, you can say, reasonable. Maybe better if it was just her. I can put you down right now. Would you like that? The king is shaking in his boots. He's terrified. He didn't remember Naofumi being this scary. The other heroes say that that's ridiculous. He can't do that, but he points his gun right back at them. Don't dare. Don't you dare step, because I will kill you too. I can beat these waves on my own. I've proved it. Do you think I need you? I don't. You're lucky I don't pull this trigger. I have at least some glimmer of respect for Ren and Itsuki. Motoyasu, oh, I'd love to put a bullet in your head, but I'm very resisting at the moment. The king says that he'll regret saying all these things, but Naofumi shakes his head, saying that he won't. He promises. Naofumi then just leaves. He doesn't care about any money. He has plenty of it, and he doesn't care about anything else. He just heads off. Erhard provides them with travel gear and other supplies, and Naofumi's party departs to Shield Frieden. Immediately, they want to get their class upgrades. He knows how important this is going to be for the future. But before he could leave, he's approached by one of the ghosts, or the shadows of some sort, that follow the queen every request she does. And Naofumi is shocked to sense one of these people, can sense them right behind him, and he pulls the gun on them, but stops when he realizes who it is, and she hands him something. Thank you. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm sure I can figure it out. At least you're at a neutral state of some sort. Yes, that is my job as the Queen's shadow. And she apologizes for everything that's occurring, and, well, she'll be speaking with you soon. I'm sure of it. Good to hear. I respect another, well, you could say semi-secret ops. She's confused by the statement, but he waves it off, and she leaves immediately. And even Raftalia and them are kind of confused, and he says that he used to be secret ops. That's why he's so good with a gun. It doesn't just come with the world, he assumed at least. And Raftalia kind of laughs at this and says that is true. So they begin their journey off to Shield Frieden. But before they can even get far though, someone approaches them. They hear horses rattling and a carriage pull up. It's Melty. Why is Melty here? He asks why she's here, and she begins explaining that she wants him to apologize to her father, the king, and he says he's not going to do that. He's sorry to her that he shot him in the leg, but if you heard what he was saying, you would have done the same. Or maybe you wouldn't have. Maybe Naofumi's quick to the trigger. But Melty says that that's not the case. She understands that, but they need to get along. They need to be able to help each other, protect each other, and figure out what everything they need to do. And he shakes his head to Melty, but everything begins to get cloudy, familiar. He looks up and he sees the other guards. Their grip on their swords are tight. Naofumi can tell what they're going to do, and one of them immediately makes a blitz toward Melty, going to cut off her head, but Naofumi drops him, immediately shooting him in the face while grabbing Melty. He gets Melty behind him, and everything seems so nostalgic. He begins firing, and it's as if he's back in that room once again, back in that house. He's walking through the house looking for that person, the person he cares about so much, his little sister. He's busting through room after room, laying bodies out as he goes. He can see them charge at him with knives, guns, and anything they can think of, and Naofumi lays them out, just like how the king's men are getting laid out right now. Bullet after bullet, every single one of them is killed, except for one. One gets away and immediately runs, and Naofumi knows what's going to happen. Naofumi begins to cry more than he's ever cried in his life, at least since that day. He hugs Melty, and everybody is confused at what's happening. Why is he hugging Melty? What's going on? And Naofumi continues to cry, but picks her up and puts her in their carriage or their wagon, saying that she needs to come with them and that she's not safe anymore. Someone's trying to assassinate her. Naofumi is still tearing up. He can barely talk, and he gets in and they begin to leave. Melty asks what's happening, and she says that that can't be right. There's no way someone's trying to assassinate her, and he says that that is true. But Rautalia and Sedina ask a different question. Why is he crying? Why is he crying in such a way? What happened? Naofumi stops the wagon and says that he should have just told them, that it wouldn't matter. They wouldn't look at him differently. He just was overthinking it. He tries to not cry himself, but he begins to explain that his little sister was killed right in front of him, just like what was going to happen with Melty. It was like a replay of all the events. He walks in the house, searching for her and her only. Everybody in that house on guard, of course, knowing who Naofumi was, the secret agent that was coming to save his sister. He keeps crying over the fact, and they ask what happened, and he said that he laid waste to every single one of them. And then he got to the room where his sister was, and she was tied up by her hands and a bullet in her head. He took her off and held her in his arms and began crying. He couldn't save her. And they're in awe, and they're shocked. They can't even utter a word. This is what he was hiding? This much pain? Is that why he has the curse series? It just came about that heavily. If it was real in his world, he would have had far more hatred than he's ever had in his life. How many kills did Naofumi have? Naofumi, still breaking down in tears, pats Melty on the head, saying that he promises that she will not get touched, that anybody that tries to kill her, he'll kill. Melty says that she can defend herself, and Naofumi shakes his head and says that this is out of her control now. It's obvious. And she eventually agrees that if someone is trying to assassinate her, she won't be able to defend herself from everybody. Naofumi says that he's gonna get his hands dirty, and he's been getting his hands dirty. He wants his whole party, though, to realize that it's for a reason. Not because he likes bloodshed, not because he likes this idea or this rush of killing people. He doesn't like it. He does it for a reason. He did it for a job. That was his life. Maybe there is satisfaction in killing the people that you hate so much, the people that you need to have vengeance upon. But at the end of the day, when you look yourself in a mirror after doing those things, You don't feel human. And all of them still don't know what to say. Raphtalia and Sedina just react by hugging him, and Philo even turns into her human form and hugs him as well. And they apologize, saying that they shouldn't even have asked about it in the first place, and they begin to tear up as well. Naofumi wipes his tears and apologizes for getting so emotional, but they don't even fault him for it. Why would they? He's been through so much, and then come here, and it was like a repeat of everything. He was losing everybody. He just almost saw Melty get assassinated in front of him, re-triggering all that PTSD. He's not far off from Sedina and Raphtalia. Raphtalia watched her parents die in front of her, more or less, and Naofumi has gone through a similar pain. So they all understand. This would solidify their party's connection for a long time. But with all that said and done, they still have a job. They need to head to Shield Frieden as soon as possible. So that's what they do. They head out in that direction, but before they can arrive, actually a good bit before, they're stopped. They're stopped by Malty, other known as Mine, and tons of the Royal Guard. Naofumi knew this would happen, but he didn't think they'd catch up this quickly. But he gets out and begins telling them that this is the worst mistake they could be doing. Mine begins to explain that he kidnapped her poor sister, and he says that's ridiculous, that they tried to have her assassinated in front of him. She says that he's definitely lying, that he must be brainwashing them or something, and that they never kill her dear sister. And on top of that, he even killed the guards that were trying to protect her. And Naofumi calls her out on this, saying that just sounds outlandish. How could anybody believe that? But Motoyasu, blind as he is, believes it. Being jealous of Naofumi, on top of the fact that he's wrapped around Mine's finger, he believes it without a question. They begin trying to attack, trying to stop their party from fleeing with Melty, but Ren and Itsuki just stand there. They don't even help either side really, and they're confused about everything that's happening. What would be the point of him even taking Melty? What would be the point of any of this really? Naofumi is just not that type of guy, right? Itsuki and Ren even start verbally doubting Mine, and she just says that that's ridiculous, especially after she openly attacks Melty without regard. It's like she's trying to hurt her. So Ren and Itsuki basically immediately know what's going on, that this is a setup. This has to be a setup. He stands in front of the Spear Hero and Melty, both Itsuki and Ren, and they say that to not take another step, that this is not what they think it is. And they both look at Motoyasu and say that he's being played for a fool, and it's obvious. And now Naofumi is shocked to see this, but he's glad that they're at least stepping up for a little bit. He turns toward Ren and calls out his name, throwing something to him. Ren catches it and looks at it. It's a church pendant? What does this have to do with anything? Naofumi yells, saying that he'll figure it out. He's smart enough to do so. And that allows for Philo, Raphtalia, Sedina, Melty, and Naofumi to escape, relatively easily in fact, and they begin to set off back towards Shield Frieden. But as they're about to do this and head off towards Shield Frieden, the Shadow approaches them once again, saying that the Queen wants to speak with them. Naofumi says that that's a large waste of time, that he really needs to get their class upgrades, like, as soon as possible, that this cannot be stalled out any longer. And the Shadow understands this, saying that the Queen has already made arrangements for him to do so, get the class upgrades, and that they'll figure it out, but she really needs to speak with him. And Naofumi reluctantly agrees, saying that he'll go, and the Shadow thanks him and leaves. Naofumi says that he guesses that it's time to do a little bit of a detour, and that's exactly what they do. They do a bit of a detour, but this leads them to meeting a nobleman by the name of Van Richnot, someone who rules over the area that he was passing through, And by Naofumi's surprise, he's very nice. He's not with Mine or anybody else, and he just greets them into the manor and says that he was informed of the situation by the queen and that they can cool down, calm down, and get some food here, at least in the meantime, and stay overnight for some rest. They all thank him, but Naofumi says that he needs to stand guard as well, just in case. He doesn't want them getting caught in a bind. And he says that there's no reason for that. There's no way anybody would come here searching for them. That he's kind of off the radar. That there's no real threats that would come here. And Naofumi mistakenly agrees and decides to take his rest, in which he sleeps through the night and wakes up in the morning to see Melty getting taken away. This is not good. She's getting taken away by some odd looking fellow, and Raphtalia sees him and begins to get very anxious. Her anxiety, she begins to get scared, and Sedina grabs her and tells her to calm down. But even Sedina knows who this person is. She's pissed. She grabs her trident, ready to throw it right through the window to kill him, but Naofumi stops him. Naofumi explains that they need to know where exactly they're taking them, and that's where he can die. That's where they can kill him. And Sedina and Raphtalia nod, and they all tail them as they head off to infiltrate Rabier's castle. They arrive and they see many demi-humans loyal to Richnot besieging or sieging the gates for his release, and Naofumi and his party immediately infiltrate. When they find Richnot though, they find that he's being tortured in front of Melty for Rabier's amusement. Naofumi shoots Rabier in the leg and shoots him in the other leg, and he collapses to the ground. Naofumi puts his gun away and tells Raphtalia and Sedina that he's all his. Naofumi helps Richnot up and tells him that he apologizes. He didn't mean to get him in all this mess, and he smiles, saying that it's really not his fault and that he's glad that he came to help him. I wouldn't leave anybody behind. It's not my style. He grabs Melty as well, and they begin evacuating from the castle as Raphtalia and Sedina stand over Rabier, ready to end his life. He pitifully begs for their mercy, but this time, no mercy is held. They know the difference between giving mercy to someone that deserves it and putting someone down for the way that they've been treated and the way that the person has treated the entire world. Some people are better off dead. There's no reforming. Sedina stabs him in more or less the face with her trident, killing the man. Naofumi and his party continue searching for anybody that is left over, maybe slaves that were imprisoned that somehow toughed it out and survived, eventually finding one. Finding someone that Raphtalia used to be very close to. Finding a boy, a demi-human by the name of Keel. Keel is on his last legs, barely surviving, and when Raphtalia finds him, she breaks down. They immediately get him food, water, and anything that needs to be done, and he is shocked to see Raphtalia, shocked to see everybody here, and he notices the slave crest on Raphtalia's chest and questions who's enslaving her, getting mad, and Naofumi tells him to calm down, that slave crest was by her choice. She looks at him and nods, saying that is true, that Naofumi is her master, but he's offered multiple times to get rid of the slave crest, but they felt that it was at least their idea to keep it on. It gave them a boost in power when training and leveling up, but on top of that, it felt like a connection to Master Naofumi, and he still doesn't understand it, but decides to, put away his other feelings and realize that Raphtalia is serious about this. With all that said and done though, the monster that was supposed to appear in another universe does not. Shut down by the fact that Rabier was killed. But during this time, Philo begins to hear something odd toward the lake, and she tells everybody to head over. Maybe something's calling to them? All of them head over right behind Philo as she's running toward the lake, And the voices continue. This voice of a majestic creature as she begins to float out of the lake. It seems to look like someone very similar to Philo. She introduces herself as Vittoria. She's the Filolial Queen. They're all shocked to hear this and are completely confused, but decide to follow her. She explains that she wants to talk with the gun hero. She's not used to the legendary gun hero arriving in this world. It's quite odd that he did. And Naofumi says that he has no idea why he's here either, and she puts her hand on his arm, saying that she can feel the bloodlust that is within him. And he puts his head down and shakes it, saying that he needed to do what needed to be done, and it's that simple. And Vittoria nods, saying that she understands that everything is crucial in terms of protecting the people you care about. But this curse is hurting him. It's hurting him deeply, and he may not be able to recover if he continues to use it at the rate he is. You mean the Vengeance Curse series? Yeah, I realize that. My body, it's definitely giving out when I use it too much. But I don't know. I use it when I'm overwhelmed with emotion. When I seek out vengeance that heavily, I want to just end the people that have wronged me so much. Vittoria says that she understands that she understands the feeling of being betrayed, and Naofumi needs to put that away. Put that away and put himself at peace. He's strong enough to not have to use his curse series to defend the people he cares about. If he trains hard and works harder, it won't matter. The curse series won't matter at all. And Naofumi nods, saying that he understands, and Vittoria says that she has one more request. Even if he has to use that curse series and whatever else he needs to get done in terms of the battles that are ahead, there are other people that are hurting in other countries. The waves are not just in Melromark. The waves are happening everywhere. And he needs to reconcile with all the heroes, and they need to work together to fight the waves. Fight the waves that are everywhere. And frankly, all of them shouldn't have showed up in the same place. It just brings this huge imbalance. And Naofumi shakes his head, saying that there's no way he can reconcile with all of them. Maybe Ren and Itsuki. He's not totally mad at them and not seeking vengeance on them, but Motoyasu is different. Motoyasu was the reason why his family was almost taken away from him. All the people he cared about. It'd be practically impossible to reconcile with him. She says that he needs to try, that he needs to find a way to do so, but Naofumi still disagrees, that there's no way that it's going to happen like that. It doesn't make sense, that he'll fight the other waves at the other places if need be. And Vittoria shakes her head, saying that she knows how powerful he is, but he's not powerful enough to do that. It doesn't make sense for him to take it all on alone, and maybe he can take out a wave on his own, but it doesn't mean he can take out all the waves out on his own. And Naofumi shakes his head again, saying that if he trains hard enough, maybe he will. If he becomes strong enough, maybe he'll be able to. She says that that's a lot of ifs, buts, but everything will come down to the heroes reconciling. That's what matters. And Naofumi says that he'll try. He'll give it his best shot. Okay? And that's all he can promise. Vittoria nods, with a plan in her head before they actually leave the next morning. The next morning arrives, and Vittoria immediately takes Melty hostage, coercing Naofumi to make sure that he makes up with the heroes. Even Naofumi doesn't necessarily know what's happening and shoots at Vittoria, but Vittoria easily blocks it, and he realizes the power disparity. If he wants to keep up, he would have to activate his curse series, but he doesn't even want to do that. But for some reason, the blast that Vittoria used to block it didn't seem serious. It seemed like she didn't want him to fight her. So, Philo is stepped up to the plate to fight Vittoria to help save Melty, in which their fight goes relatively normal, but Philo is actually a good bit stronger than, well, obviously in canon, and once she is able to land a hit on Vittoria, she grants her to be the next successor to the Filolio Queen, giving her a large boost in her base stats. And Vittoria explains everything, saying that she needed to test Philo, needed to test their party to see how strong they truly were. And she's sorry about that. She feels guilty about having to do that. But Naofumi understands. Naofumi understands that he really does need to try and reconcile with these heroes. So that's what he's going to do. He gets sent to the nearest hero near him. And unluckily enough, that hero is the spear hero. He approaches hoping that it's either Ren or Itsuki, but it's not. Ren and Itsuki, unknowingly to him, were in a collapse of a hidden cave. And when he approaches, he sees the spear hero and mine waiting for him. He tries to talk to Motoyasu, saying that now is not the time to, fight. It's time to talk, that they need to figure out. But Motoyasu cuts him off, saying that he refuses to listen to him, accusing Naofumi of killing Ren and Itsuki. And Naofumi asks, how stupid can he be? Seriously, he wasn't even near them, hasn't seen them since, mine lit the forest on fire. So how would it be him? That makes no sense. He wasn't even near it. And even his party backs it up, saying that that doesn't make sense at all. That Naofumi was in a totally different place. He was obviously not there. And, mine convinces Motoyasu otherwise. That, it's obviously Naofumi's doing. Look at the power that he holds. He's obviously trying to get rid of all the heroes so that he can have all the power. And Malty just spews BS in the words of Naofumi. And this leads to a full battle between Naofumi and Motoyasu's party, in which Naofumi shuts down instantly by himself. They're not in the same level as Naofumi, and the spear hero, over his cockiness, doesn't believe it, but it's true. Naofumi's party is far stronger than theirs, especially with Sedina and her transformed state, and also Philo at the state that she is right now, and on top of Raftalia being stronger than most of the people in their party, if not all of them, besides the spear hero. So with all that said, the fight is very one-sided, and Naofumi puts them down easily, not killing them but hurting them, saying that this isn't the time. That's until Philo senses something, senses impending danger, and she pleads to Naofumi to activate his curse series, in which Naofumi reluctantly does and looks up. He says that he doesn't see anything, but Philo tells him that something is coming, that he needs to time it perfectly. He needs to start charging his weapon now. So he points both of his deagles to the sky and begins charging his weapon the most he possibly can. The spear hero calls him a fool and tries to attack him, but obviously Sedina immediately steps in front of it, smacking it away and kicking him to the floor once again, saying that if something's coming, he was about to get rid of the only person and the only line of defense they have. Sedina transforms and charges up an attack herself and begins to charge up her trident, ready to throw it at whatever's coming toward him. And Naofumi smiles and says that they have to be ready for this. If this is as powerful as Philo makes it out to be, they might just all die. He hopes that he's strong enough. Philo then screams now as Naofumi blasts his blast into the air as this huge airstrike, it seems, crashes down on his blast. He continues the fire and tries to hold it, and Sedina even chimes in, trying to help the best she possibly can, and the strike blows up mid-air. Naofumi starts panting, realizing that he was able to stop it, but what the hell was that? They hear a voice though. I hear a familiar voice. It's the Pope. The Pope begins to say that it's impressive that these false heroes can do such a thing. But luckily Ren and Itsuki are already dead, and just according to plan, the gun hero and the spear hero will be dead very soon. Melty recognizes that this is the Pope, and he holds the ancient weapon that replicates all 4 of the cardinal hero weapons that was supposedly lost to time, but that's wrong. Naofumi stares at the Pope, ready to fight as well, and he aims his weapons and begins shooting like crazy, and his weapon can't pierce through the defense, at least currently. He's a little drained from that large attack, but the Pope is even worried at the power that Naofumi is showing. How strong is he really? He looks to see all of these followers powering up his weapon, but they continuously die. Naofumi has an idea. He fully activates his vengeance series, and he can feel every single death that's happening around him. It's as if these deaths are accounting to his kill count, which will work perfectly in his favor. Every last bullet he shoots becomes stronger and stronger. The Pope even realizes this and realizes that he may even be outclassed in this situation. He needs to kill them now. But as he goes to launch his attack at Naofumi, 2 other people join in. 2 other people block the attack. And that's Ren and Itsuki. They're not dead. They're alive. They explain that the Queen's special forces, the Shadows, saved them. And luckily now they can help out. And Motoyasu is shocked to see it. And Mind says that's ridiculous. How are they even alive? That she thought they were dead. And Ren and Itsuki scoff at them, saying that Motoyasu has his head in the dirt. He doesn't even know what's happening. He needs to wake up now. As they say this, they begin their counterattack on the Pope, but the Pope begins to nullify all these special effects while using the cathedral. He activates the cathedral, and this seems to decrease the effectiveness of Naofumi's curse series. This is very bad. But just as he thought that he was going to lose power, his power began to amp up once again. But based on anger, vengeance, the dragon shard that lives within his weapon can feel the presence of Ren, and his vengeance to kill Ren is overflowing through the weapon. Naofumi can still control it. The dragon doesn't have control by any means, but the vengeance and the want for vengeance is making his weapon stronger and stronger. This is perfect. This is exactly what he needs. He puts away his deagles and they change to 2 separate double barrels. It's akimbos. Akimbo double barrels that are going to pack an insane punch. Yes, they have no range, but that's what he's going to have Philo for. He hops on Philo and says that they need to get close. He tells Itsuki to basically cover him and Ren to be the follow-up, that he's going to break the barrier very quickly. He's confused at how, and he spins his double barrels, showing him that he's on a new level, that he'll destroy it, just be ready. So Philo goes charging in, dodging as many attacks as possible, and right in front of the Pope, he shoots both of the double barrels twice each, blowing to smithereens the barrier that was in front of him, and he reloads. His weapon is even stronger than before. The vengeance is building. The fact that Naofumi is fighting with Ren is pissing the dragon off, making vengeance for Ren even want more and more. Ren then strikes the Pope, and he's able to actually injure him, and Naofumi, before they can actually have more power throttle through the weapon once again, blasts the Pope into smithereens. Blasts both of his arms off and one of his legs. The Pope is now down, hurting like crazy and bleeding out. The healing magic that is put upon him isn't even enough. The curse series is burning it away, and the bullets that were in his gun, the shells, were like incinerary. They begin to scald and burn the Pope until there was nothing left. Naofumi collapses. He's exhausted and his whole body is in pain. He can feel that overdid the curse series by a mile. He never really used his shotguns. His shotguns are powerful in terms of a close range weapon, but he's never used them like that, and he overdid it by a lot. He's right. Vittoria knows best that he needs to stop using the curse series, but there's sometimes that you need to sacrifice yourself to make sure things get finished. And Naofumi lays there exhausted as he passes out. Luckily, the Queen cleans up the rest of the mess, arrests all of these followers of the Pope, and then Naofumi is brought to a room and spends 3 or more days recovering. Eventually he wakes up with his team surrounding him, including Melty and also the queen. They're all happy to see that he's awake, and he sees that all of his stats are minused by 30% besides his attack, besides his strength, which is good, he guesses, but now he can't really take hits. So he'll have to definitely lay low for at least a day or two to make sure he can recover fully. And the queen recognizes everything that's occurred. The Three Heroes Church is now completely abandoned. Mine and the king are obviously going to be punished for what they've done to him, and all of these other things will be handled. And she promises that, and she apologizes for everything that he's been through. Naofumi says that it's fine. As long as his party is okay, he's fine. And he doesn't care about all that other stuff. He does care about Mine. Mine is a manipulative person, and he says that that is dangerous, especially next to one of the heroes. That she doesn't care, or he doesn't care if she's hurt, killed, maimed, or whatever, but she needs to be checked. Make sure that's done, and he doesn't care what happens next. And the queen is happy to hear this, especially because she knows everything that she's done, or at least Mine has done, and it would cause for a death sentence by every means of the imagination. But hearing this from Naofumi gets her some relief. And this then leads to about a 1 or 2 day break for Naofumi. But luckily, he can finally get the class upgrades he's been desiring. But when he does, the ritual somewhat seems to fail. It works, but fails at the same time. They're not able to choose their class pathway, but the queen speculates that it must be Fitoria's blessing. And Naofumi says that does make sense. That would make sense for how much boost they actually got. And Brautalia, Philo, and Sedina even say that does make sense though, because they've gotten a large boost. Like a plus 100% boost, it seems like, compared to what was supposed to happen initially. And they say that it's fine. They're actually pretty okay with this, leading to the 4 heroes having a private meeting. They have this meeting. They talk about leveling systems and other ways of going about things, fast travel and stuff like that, learning and sharing as much as they possibly can. And Naofumi gets down to the nitty-gritty. He explains his power. He says that his power is based on vengeance, a vengeance curse series. It seems that when you get so down to a certain point, that you unlock this power within your weapon. And they're shocked to hear this. Everyone is. The spear hero is kind of questioning him, thinking that he's lying, but Ren and Itsuki tell him to be quiet, that he's really wrapped around Mine's finger that much that he wants to question everything Naofumi says. And Motoyasu immediately shuts up. Naofumi continues, saying that his vengeance series occurred when his whole party was basically taken away from him. Brautalia and Sedina were taken away and put back into slavery by Motoyasu and his little girlfriend. Ren and Itsuki hear this and say that that would make sense, would drive someone to the edge, and that's, I guess, what must have triggered the curse series initially. And Naofumi then explains that the dragon that Ren slayed is also within his gun. It's a shard that he found, and the vengeance that the dragon wants to kill Ren also boosts his power. And Ren asks if that will ever turn to Naofumi to kill him, but Naofumi shakes his head and says that he has complete control over that specifically. So he won't turn on Ren to kill him. Ren says that's good, because he wouldn't want to have to fight someone, especially one of the heroes. And Naofumi continues to explain what happened in his past world. And that's probably why the Vengeance series opened up to him so quickly. That he's already felt the pain of this before, and feeling it again just triggered it even more. Same thing with almost seeing Melty killed in front of him. It was just like his little sister. He doesn't get into detail about everything that happened, not like with his party. He doesn't trust them as much as his obvious party members, but they all understand relatively. At least Itsuki and Ren understand more than Motoyasu, in which Motoyasu is just clueless all the time for some reason. But with all that said, They get everything ironed out more or less, and the queen explains to them the Kalmyra Archipelago events, a bonus experience points place that they'll be able to help level themselves up before the wave. Naofumi says that that is music to his ears and that he can't wait to go do that. So they just cut it there and they all head out. Eventually, Erhard is given Naofumi some special things. Actually, a rifle. Finally, a simple musket that he ordered a long time ago. Luckily, he was able to get this, and he debates on what he wants to train with or level up, and he even consults with his party. And they say that his pistol is already leveled up so much that you might as well level up the other 2 guns. And he agrees. He thinks that the shotgun should be used in situational instances like close range combat. And obviously the assault rifle or the musket that is currently with them is going to be leveled up for that purpose, the long range assault rifle type thing. And he believes that the training of Kalmyra will be extremely beneficial for the fact that it would be very fast for him to level up. So when they leave, they actually meet some weird and odd people by the name of Lark and Therese, who he introduces himself as Naofumi, but they don't believe that he's actually the legendary gun hero. He's kind of weirded out by the fact that they're acting so odd, but he doesn't really question it very much. They think that it's just some alias and he's trying to be cool, but he says that it's whatever. When they arrive at Kalmyra, Naofumi and his party immediately go to the hardest leveling place possible. That's exactly where they want to be, and anywhere with the highest levels is what they need to do. So they immediately go there, and they just start their training. Naofumi lets all of them kind of run rampant and kind of just destroy and kill things as quick as possible, and he uses his musket from long range as he continues to level it up. As giant or bigger monsters approach, though, he pulls out his shotgun and he uses that time to level up that shotgun as well. They do this for the entire day, just tiring themselves out, but it is very beneficial. Luckily, he's gotten some upgrades in weaponry for his party, including Philo, Rautalia, and Sedina, so he doesn't have to worry about the durability losing anything in terms of that. Erhard already has given them replicas of previous weapons and stuff like that, and even just extra stuff that they'll need. Erhard, being paid off a long time ago, was kind of perfect for Naofumi in this entire journey. So he continues on training, leveling up all the way until night. At night, he realizes that his musket has already transformed, and this is perfect. It's already changed into a semi-automatic rifle, but he would like something that's automatic. The double barrel he has, which is not a snub double barrel, it's a longer double barrel now, has changed to a different shotgun as well. He actually has a shotgun that has a sizable mag, very similar to a striker or some assault shotgun that you could see in a more advanced setting. Not totally modernized by any means, at least in terms of his own world. It's no Spaz 12, but it seems like the Spaz 12 would be that endgame shotgun. He's a couple off of it, but a striker in this fashion, being able to have an 8 round to 12 round mag of shotgun shells is insane. He's able to shred giant monsters and bosses in an instant, and frankly, he has seen insane growth. Actually more with his shotgun than his assault rifle, unfortunately, but at least he still has a semi-automatic assault rifle. But for now, the M1 Grand like assault rifle is very, very beneficial. It packs quite a punch and at least has a decently sizable mag that can be adjusted from about 6 to 8 bullets based on his modifications. But he would like something with a large mag and at least something that is not semi-automatic, maybe even a 3-round burst or maybe even fully automatic. But with that all said, this was only day 1. They've seen insane growth. Naofumi and his party are exponentially stronger, far stronger than he would even imagine training normally. The fact that he went from a level of maybe 45, 50 to in the ranges of 60s and almost even 70 is insane to Naofumi. he realized that their party is extremely strong, and especially him. The next day, they actually decide to co-op with Lark and Therese, and Naofumi names them as their allies, in fact, at least for the moment, to co-op with them. And they sort of join his party, at least for the time being, to level up together. But Lark and Therese quickly realize how powerful Naofumi is, and the places that he's leveling are extremely high level, actually the highest level you'll find in Kalmyra, and him and his party are easily wiping them out, and it's like child's play. They wipe them out once and they wait for them to respawn, and Naofumi continues this trend over and over and over again to level up all his weapons. His leveling up in general, as his entire level, is slowing down obviously, but his weapon level XP is on the lower side, especially only having something like an M1 Grand as a rifle, so he's able to level that up a lot quicker than he would to level himself up personally. When he finishes up, his party is almost all at level 60, with Naofumi almost at the bridge of level 70, and his weapons are getting up there. He actually has a 3-round burst assault rifle now, which is very beneficial and shreds from long distances, and he's very, very accurate with this weapon, and he sees the fruits of his labor, especially with all these new weapons that he's getting. And it actually seems that the rifle has an extension into sniper rifles as well, and he might even be able to get a sniper rifle, but that would be for some other time and might be later into the leveling up. But Naofumi decides that they're all going to take a rest, and they ask why, that everything seems so easy that they'll be able to farm XP and they can get up very, very high very quickly. But Naofumi explains that if they don't rest, that their bodies won't recover, and frankly, they need the time off as well. That they need to let's hang out on the beach, relax for a little bit, and then they'll get back onto training. But during this time, something occurs. They find out something that is very unsettling. Philo discovers an undersea temple, and Naofumi decides to go check it out. And when they do, they find out that a dragon hourglass is below Kalmyra, and it says that there's only 48 hours until the Kalmyra wave begins. Naofumi immediately tells the queen about this, transporting over there with his party, and she begins to amass a giant naval fleet and says that they need to all get set up. So Naofumi does just that, and he also creates a plan about destroying and killing certain monsters and leaving the 4 heroes to fight the boss monster, which everyone agrees to, and everything gets planned out. Unfortunately, Naofumi only has a couple more hours to train in terms of all the training he was doing in the past, but that's fine. They should be prepared for this wave, actually hopefully over-prepared, for their next conflict with Glass herself. But what they don't realize is that some other people are going to join the fray. During the wave, it just begins, and they all begin to fight off the small monsters that are occurring in the waters until the final boss monster appears. Lark and Therese are there to help as well, and Naofumi easily kills the boss monster, actually pulling out his assault rifle and just drilling it through the water, and it occurs pretty quickly that the boss monster was defeated, and everybody is shocked. The spear hero, the sword hero, and the bow hero ask how he got so strong, and he said that they just had efficient training, very efficient training. They ask where he trained at, and he said that they just went to the highest level place they could find. They're shocked to hear this. Highest level place, and they were efficient? They said that they were there once, and they said it took them way too long to kill things. And Naofumi shrugs, saying that he guesses that he just has a more efficient party than them. He kind of laughs this off, and Ren and Itsuki shake their head, but Motoyasu takes this seriously and gets mad about it. But Ren and Itsuki tell him to calm down, that it's not that serious, Naofumi was kidding. And Naofumi says that he was, at least sort of. But with all that said, Lark and Therese hop up on the giant monster and even question themselves. They question how strong Naofumi is, but it doesn't matter. It's not like they have a choice. Naofumi jumps over there and stands in front of them and has his gun out. "You two, you're with Glass, correct?" They're shocked to hear this. How does he even know that? In my world, I was a secret agent. I made a living off of reading people, off of knowing if people want to kill me, if people don't want to kill me. It's pretty blatantly obvious with you two. Glass had a bit of a poker face, and I respect her for that. But you two definitely give that vibe off. Therese and Lark basically get in their battle stances immediately and begin to attack Naofumi. But Sedina and Raphtalia are there to protect him as well, and so is Philo. The battle, the real battle, is about to begin. Lark charges in at Naofumi, but Naofumi quickly backs up and shoots him in the chest with one of his revolvers, and then immediately shoots him with his striker. He walks forward toward Lark, and Lark tries to close the distance, but with a 12-gauge shotgun, with a bunch of shotgun shells, he's just blasting Lark every time he tries to make a move, and Lark is taking substantial amounts of damage. Immediately, Therese is trying to back him up, but even with the backup, it's hard to keep up. Practically impossible, especially with Sedina and also Raphtalia getting them on their heels. They're both extremely well versed in fighting, and they're in Sedina's play yard. Sedina transforms into her more like killer whale state and dives in and out of the water, dragging them down with her as well. This was the worst idea. They chose the wrong place to fight, and this might go extremely bad. Naofumi looks at their faces and even tells them, "I know what you're thinking. This was a horrible idea." And I agree, it was. Naofumi continues his assault, shooting his striker shotgun at Lark, and also when Therese comes back up, he'll shoot at her too, and they continue this assault over and over until Glass appears, striking down everybody and pushing Naofumi away from his party. Glass says that it's time for them to fight. 1 versus 1. And he waves over the spear, sword, and bow hero to help his party and say that they need to fight Lark and Therese, that his party may not be able to fight without his help as well, but they could. But with the help of the other 3 heroes, that their power should be enough to ensure their victory. Glass says to not get so cocky, but he says that he's not cocky, he's calculated. He immediately begins shooting at Glass, and Glass realizes that this is not the same person, not the same Naofumi from before, and he's not even in his curse series. He's smiling, he's happy. He realized everything he needs to do. He realized the method of training he needs to go about. Naofumi is one of the top in this world right now. Nobody can stop him currently. And Naofumi is going to make sure that this world is safe for the people he cares about. He continues firing off more and more, and it seems like his power is just increasing as he's fighting. And Lark and Therese see this and realize they need to help Glass, but they can't even get over. They're on their heels with these people. They don't know what to do. But Naofumi more or less gets Glass on the ground, puts the gun to her head, and asks her if she truly wants to kill these people, truly wants to kill him, the other heroes, his party. Is that really worth it? And why is there only 3 of them? Wouldn't there be 4 if they really were from another world? Glass looks up and her eyes grow wide, and she realizes what he's talking about. He doesn't know who the other 4th is, but Glass does. The one person that doesn't want all this to happen. Glass knows that this person who is near and dear to her doesn't want to go and kill these other heroes. Glass is saddened to hear this, and Naofumi put it in her head. Put it in the idea that, is this really the right idea to do this? Glass knows that this needs to happen if she wants to protect her world, but is it worth it? She's not sure. She doesn't know, but she's beaten. Naofumi puts his gun away and walks backwards and says, "That's so. You're beaten, Glass. I'm gonna give you a chance to leave. You, Lark, and Therese. But think twice when you come back here. I hope it's not for fighting. I hope that we can be allies one day." Maybe we can solve this together. Our worlds are in danger, I agree. But if we can solve it together, then all of us can live, Glass. All of us. We don't have to lose the people we care about. I've already done that in my other world. My world that I came from, I've already lost so much. I don't want to lose more, Glass. Glass is shocked to hear this. She didn't know how bad Naofumi had it, but she nods, saying that she can't guarantee anything, but she'll consider what he's saying. He smiles and says that that is all he asks for. And as they're leaving, Glass looks on and sees the holstered gun on Naofumi. Sees the gun and it begins to glow. As Glass, Lark, and Therese are sucked back into the wave portal, they stare at the weapon in confusion. What kind of weapon is that thing? I know what it is, but what kind of power does it truly have? They're sucked away into the portal, and Naofumi stands there with a sigh of relief that luckily he was able to defend them off. And the other heroes question why he didn't take the chance to kill Glass, especially with how fast to the trigger he's been in the past. But he says that they're just after the safety of their own world, and that's what he is after as well. Maybe giving them one more chance to reconcile will be okay. Maybe they can all work together just like Vittoria wanted, but in a different way than what she believed. With all this said and done, everything is over. The world that they know at least is safe for now. They head out, and meanwhile, Naofumi and his party head back to the kingdom. He is greeted by the queen, and the queen gives him something. A deed to a certain area that he would grow quite fond of. He would grow quite fond of this place because it was a home for two of his party members, or at least a temporary home to one and a true home for another. He got lordship over the place that Raphtalia was raised in. He decided to rebuild it with the protection of the legendary gun hero and his party, soon to be a safe haven for future slaves that were incarcerated in slavery and in slave markets. Future safe haven for many people. The people who fill this village are the people Naofumi has helped all along the way. A quick to the trigger person like Naofumi, someone that was ready to drop a body without a blink, has now realized that that isn't quite the way. He may need to resort to that in the future, but at least currently he can bring peace. It's like ironic, in fact. Naofumi and his pistols were the true peacemakers of all of this. But there are a lot of challenges ahead of him. A lot of challenges that his party is going to have to overcome. Will he be able to defend against those challenges? He's not sure. But with the help of Raphtalia, Sedina, Philo, and the people of the kingdom who are loyal to him, Melty, the queen, and various others, he thinks that the future is pretty bright in the eyes of the legendary gun hero. And with that said, that is a wrap for What If Naofumi was the legendary gun hero. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, sub, and comment down below any suggestions. And I'll say this again, I do hopefully ideally want to continue these series when season 2 is complete / when it comes out, depending on how I feel and depending on how much I know about season 2 and how long it will go. With that said though, that you might or might not get that second we would call it more of like a manga edition or a season 2 edition coming up in the near future. But even if you don't, I hope y'all enjoyed. And if you did, like I said, leave a like, sub, and comment down below any suggestions you want for future What If Naofumi What Ifs, or even any other what if you can think of. Hope all y'all have an amazing day, and yeah, later.